we've gotten points, I think, every time down there. Even when the few times we haven't punched it in and gotten touchdowns, we've been able to get the field goal. I think last week was maybe the first time statistically we didn't succeed because we were taking a knee at the end of the game. And unfortunately, that goes against your stats. So we've done a good job in the red zone. We hopefully can continue to do that. And I think as long as you can run the ball effectively down there, that gives you a chance. Third downs, have been up and down. I think the last 2 weeks have been really poor. And a big part of it is because, we've just taken way too many negative plays in early downs and got us behind the sticks and second and long. And, you look at last game, I think we were 4 of 13. Well, we were 4 of 8 in 3rd and 10 or less. We had 5 3rd and 11 pluses. And against one of the top third down defenses in the country with a pass rush like that, that's not a recipe for success. And, that's one of the biggest things we got to clean up. The negative plays have just absolutely killed us, kept us off schedule the last 2 weeks, made third downs really hard. And, that's just something we've got to find a way to clean up because, traditionally we don't have a ton of negative plays. That's usually one of our strengths. And we've just taken a lot of -1, -2 yard losses on runs. Obviously we had a couple sacks, but I think that is probably the biggest reason we've struggled lately the last 2 weeks on third down, just because we've been in so many third and longs.
Coach, we've got Gary Furman from Kane Sport. Gary?
Hey, Rhett, how you doing this week?
Hey, Gary.
Now that we're getting towards the midway point of the season, I think we're starting to see some of the issues from last year kind of resurfacing a little bit with some position groups and uneven performances from game to game and things like that. But what we're also seeing is your ability to dial up explosive plays that right now I think you would agree is carrying the offense a little bit. So I had a couple questions. What is the origin of that? Are these things that you're seeing in game planning during the week, or are they things that are evolving on game day that's allowing you to find those holes in the defense? How does it apply to this week's game against a Virginia team that just gave up 6 plays to Wake Forest last week of more than 30 yards, which I'm sure you're looking at that game tape, and I'm sure that makes you very happy to see. And then lastly, what's happened with the running game where, backs were having their way earlier in the season, and now back-to-back games, I think like Cam, for example, has gone from averaging 8 yards a carry to averaging just over 2 yards a carry, and that part of your game has really seemed to break down the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, the first question on generating explosive plays, I think it's probably a combination. Sometimes it's in-game adjustment. A lot of times, I think that's one of my jobs is when maybe we're needing a shot in the arm, having a couple things we can go to each week. Obviously, I didn't do a very good job of that 2 weeks ago, but just to give us a shot in the arm and kind of get us back going again. Sometimes maybe when we're like anybody gets in a game, sometimes defense gets you a little bit, and you kind of get a little stale. You got to find something to kind of restart the engine a little bit. Our guys have done a good job executing those kind of things. When just the base system isn't flowing as nicely as we'd like it to. With regards to the run game, honestly, I think the Clemson game, we got whipped. I thought we ran the ball really well last week. I mean, you're talking about the number 2 rush defense in the country. I think BC ran for 30 yards on them. I think North Carolina State ran for like 60 yards. I know Austin Peay had 1 yard rushing. I mean, they were giving up 52 yards a game. And if you take the sacks out, we probably had over 130 yards net rushing. That's more than twice their average. And really the way we were able to close the game out, I thought was strong. And so I think we'd have probably ran the ball even better as a unit had we not been in the couple of drives there in the second and third quarter where we were struggling, not been so far behind the chains where we couldn't run the ball. So, in terms of Cam, I don't know if there's any one thing to pinpoint, but we're obviously playing Jalen and Don as well. And you even saw Robert Burns and then De'Aaron gets his. So we're not trying to force feed it to one guy. We're just going to ride the hot hand. But honestly, I mean, we weren't world beaters, but nobody runs for a ton of yards on those guys. And so I thought we were actually effective in the run game last week.
And can you comment a little bit on Virginia's defense? At times they had some success against Clemson, but then, last week they gave up the big plays.
Yeah, I think, Bronco and that group there, they're really known for being really tough, really physical, well coached. They're really long. I mean, you look on the depth chart, they got 2 outside linebackers that are 6'7", 6'5". Their corners are 6'2". Their safeties are 6'2". And their scheme kind of allows them to almost shrink the field on you. I know Wake Forest got some big plays on them. I think that's why they were able to win the game. But, they did a nice job of generating those. But, traditionally, I think Virginia does a nice job of keeping everything in front of them. So I think, like you said, probably what you saw against Clemson's more who they are. They did a really good job of slowing those guys down most of the night.
Coach, we've got Barry Jackson from the Miami Herald. Barry?
Hi, Rhett. If another coach on the staff asked you in confidence, who are the 3 receivers who you think are best equipped to help you win games, could you even answer that at this point? And does the fact that you have such a large group sort of muddled together, does that excite you? Does it stress you out at this point in the season?
No, it doesn't stress me out. We've got, we've been playing the young guys a little bit more the last 2 weeks. I think the best thing is those guys just got to come compete every week, and the guys that are playing the best in practice and having the best game are going to stay in there. Those guys have been working really hard the last 2 weeks, and I think, at times they've made some really nice plays. I thought Mark Pope had a nice game the other day, and it's still frustrating sometimes that, maybe you aren't seeing the fruits of the labor on the deeper throws. We were really close on a couple the other day, got a couple pass interferences, and, we just got to keep swinging, because eventually those things are going to start to connect. And when they do, I think you'll see that really opens things up for us offensively. But, we just got to keep continuing to get better each week, and can't get discouraged. You just got to keep swinging until you get a breakthrough. And, we got a lot of confidence that we're going to get there.
Coach, we have Mike Barber from the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Mike, if you had a question for Coach Lashlee.
Yeah. Hey, Coach, 2 quick ones on their defense, and you just hit on it. But their outside linebacker, particularly 11, Charles Snowden, not very productive playing to the boundary for a couple of weeks. They moved him more to the field this week. What did you see in that change, and how did that change them defensively?
Well, it didn't really change them much, because number 7 is the other one, and they're both really long and really athletic. And so if they just switch 7 and 11, it doesn't change their scheme. And it may have had something to do with what Wake Forest was doing, or, in the world of COVID, you never know when you have guys in or out, and you got to make adjustments. So those guys, like you said, number 11, he's 6'7", I think, and 7's like 6'5". They're really long, really athletic. And the way they play them both in space in the passing game and in the run game, that length is tough. They also will go to a 4-down front, put both those guys at defensive end, and they can really rush the passer. So I think they do a really nice job of using those guys, and their length is very disruptive.
And on those big plays that you were looking at, did that look like breakdowns defensively, or guys getting kind of out-athleted?
I'll be honest with you. Wake made a couple nice throws and catches. They had a couple contested throws and catches, and really that's how Clemson got some big plays on them too. It's not like people were running wide open. I know number 3 for Clemson made 2 really nice contested touchdown catches down the field. Same thing with Wake into the boundary on some one-on-one throws. And so, that's what you got to do. A lot of times, rarely are you going to get guys just wide open. Every now and then a busted coverage happens, or you can scheme something up. But that's going to be the name of the game every week. When we can connect some contested throws and catches downfield, it really just opens everything else up for you.
Thank you.
Coach, we've got time for a few more. We're going to go to David Lake at 24/7. David?
Coach, wanted to go off board a little bit, I guess, and ask you about Tyler Van Dyke, and just in general, how's he done with approaching this, redshirt season, understanding there is no redshirting this year, but just his approach and getting better during this year.
I think he's done great. He's very attentive in all the things we're doing in meetings and walkthroughs. And, anytime I'm able to get him reps, he knows what to do. For a freshman, he's able to stay very focused. A lot of times freshmen hit a wall about halfway through the first season. They're getting bombarded with school and finals and tests, and just the game weeks kind of become long weeks, and it's the same thing over and over, and it's easy to kind of get tired mentally and get in a rut. And I haven't noticed that with him. I think he's been pretty locked in. He's very mature. And I think he also is very focused, knowing that if he gets an opportunity this year, he wants to be ready, but he also wants to soak everything up for when his time comes down the road in the future.
Coach, we've got Manny Navarro from The Athletic. Manny?
Hey, Coach, obviously on the depth chart this week, you guys put a bunch of oars for the wide receivers, and we've talked about how the freshmen are sort of coming along. I wanted to ask you specifically about, Jeremiah Payton, Keyshawn Smith, Michael Redding. I guess of those 3, is there one that's further ahead of the other in terms of being a deep threat and maybe being able to help you guys stretch the field and fill in that void that you want?
It's been interesting. Michael Redding started doing some good things early in the season, and then kind of just had some aggravating injuries that didn't keep him from playing, but probably slowed down that progression. Same thing with Jeremiah Payton. I thought in the first game of the year he showed some really good things, and then had to miss a couple weeks, so that kind of slowed him down. Now we've got him back, and Keyshawn Smith, he's shown he can really run. He had a really nice deep route last week. He ran by the guy, and we just right off the fingertips, and it was borderline interference. So we were really, really close there, and he can stretch the field. And, those guys have length. My hope is all three of them really continue to develop into more of a threat to stretch the field. But, Keyshawn can run. Jeremiah's really long, and Michael's really, really dependable. So hopefully we can keep those guys consistent in the practice rotation, in the game rotation, to where, as young guys, like you said, two are true freshmen. Jeremiah's a redshirt freshman who's never played till this year. Hopefully the game will start to slow down. Like I said, sometimes a guy makes one or two really good catches, and all of a sudden the light clicks on, and it kind of opens up the floodgates, and that's kind of what we're looking forward to.
Thanks.
Coach, we've got two more for you. We're going to go to Daryl Streeter at Footballville. Daryl, if you had a question for Coach Lashlee.
Yes, Coach, how you doing today? Coach, how's your family enjoying the Miami sunshine and the weather? And can you see yourself being here for a while?
They're loving it. Obviously, being COVID, I think my wife and I have been out one time since we moved here. And then, my kids, fortunately, they've been in school since August, and that's gone well. So that's been really good. I know my wife's been really happy about that, getting them out of the house. But they're loving it. My boys are getting to play on a little baseball team. They're having a good time. And, my boys, they're just kind of at that age at 10 where they really get excited about football on game day every week and all that. So they're loving it. They love being at the U. We love it. My wife was telling me during our off week, that was one time we got to go out to dinner one night, just how much she enjoyed being in South Florida and how it's really exceeded her expectations. So we're very happy here. We're excited to be a part of Coach Diaz's staff and try to build something special.
Awesome. Last one for you, Coach. We have David Wilson from the Miami Herald. David, go ahead.
Hey, Rhett, a couple quick ones. Just first, I'm just kind of curious your overall kind of big picture thoughts on Dyke on Saturday. Obviously, the 4 touchdowns, but the 2 interceptions. And then also, we obviously, you're adding different stuff to the playbook. It seems like every week we saw that full house formation. I'm just curious, with no spring, how far along is like install or whatever at this point in the season as opposed to maybe past seasons? Do you feel like it's a little bit further behind, or are you kind of where you hope you would be?
Yeah, with regards to Dyke, I thought Dyke played pretty well on Saturday. The first interception was a tip ball, and that's unfortunate. He had Mike Harley was going to be open on the outcut for a gain, and it gets tipped, and it was just kind of unfortunate. I tell you what goes unnoticed is the hustle of Mike Harley and Cam Harris and John Campbell and Ja'Kai Clark and Dyke to go get that tackle down at the 12, because what looked like a pick six, they get him tackled at 12. Our defense, stiffens up and holds him to 3. That was big. And the other one, their corner honestly made a great play. He turned and showed a coverage and bailed out the last second, and he got us. But he probably had 2 other plays that were really poor plays. One, we took a sack on one late in the game that I think he could have got the ball out, and then another one when he was out of the pocket didn't make a great decision. But to throw 4 touchdown passes, I thought his deep ball throws were a lot better. If you look, they were right on the fingertips of the receivers. A couple PIs we got because he gave them chances, and he made some runs when we needed him to as well. And so I thought he played better. I thought he was just steady and did a good job and gave us a chance to win. Obviously, the turnovers were critical, and we can't allow that. But as far as Dyke goes, I thought he had a solid game, and I think he'll continue to get better each week. What was your second question?
Obviously, you're adding stuff to the playbook every week, and we saw that full house formation. I'm just curious, how far along? Obviously, with no spring, I'm sure it took a little bit longer to install and stuff like that. Are you kind of where you would hope you would be? Are you still installing stuff more than maybe you would at this point in the season in past years?
I'm not as worried about the volume of stuff. People always hey, we got X% of our playbook in. We don't even have a playbook. We have guys with iPads and we send them stuff, and we kind of build it around what we do. I think where it's probably hurt us the most is in our passing game, with just the development of timing and reps, because we lost 11 spring practices. But even more than that, we lost that time in spring, in April, in May, in June, when those guys would have been out throwing and doing those things that we had done all spring on their own. And that's when really you develop a lot of timing and continuity that are on the deep balls, on things that are just right now a hair off. And so just you kind of lose the ability to build reps, because it's not always about the plays. It's about how many times you've repped certain things to where you have the confidence, no matter what look the defense gives you, no matter good, bad, that you can execute at a high level. And I think that's probably the only thing that's really hurt us, with regards to evolving each week. Your opponent's different, so that has something to do with it. Obviously, we were without Brevin and without Jared last week, and so sometimes you try to do some things based on the personnel you're carrying into the game. And also we're learning about our guys each week, what we do well, what maybe we think we can be good at. So a little bit of that is just us evolving and trying to figure out what fits for our personnel. And, 5 games in, we have a better idea. It would be nice to kind of get to full strength soon and see how we do. But I think we got guys that are playing hard, and it's not about the volume of plays. It's just about the quality of how well we can execute them. That's probably the biggest thing I'm concerned with.
Coach,